Dear colleagues, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. My name is Peter Hutt. I'm a resident for the European College of Bovine Health Management at Utrecht University in the Netherlands. And I'm currently doing a PhD in the use of sensors and sensor data and the interpretation of sensor data on dairy farms in the Netherlands. This specific presentation is about the consequences of the locomotion score on several behavioral parameters we measure with a couple of sensors. First of all, big thanks to one of my master students, Marieke Buiatrics, for doing lots of work in the analysis of this study. We've got a multi-annual study. We've got 17 dairy farms spread across the Netherlands with a focus on a successful transition for every dairy cow. We use two types of sensors of the company NIDAP in the Netherlands, the SmartTech neck and the SmartTech leg. They measure the eating time, number of eating bouts and the duration per eating bout, the rumination time, lying time, the leg sensor, number of lying bouts, duration per lying bout, and the number of steps. In this specific case, we want to quantify the effect of the locomotion score on these several behavioral parameters. So, out of our 17 dairy farms, we selected 8 farms which were well managed and belonged to the top 25 production in 2017. We were there for every week for 1 year, and we included 520 cows. And of those 520 cows, we took 4 scoring moments at the beginning of the dry period, the end of the dry period, 4 weeks postpartum and 8 weeks postpartum. We used our studio linear mix model and we corrected for farm and repeated measurements. So per every cow, we excluded a couple of cows, but per every cow we had 4 scoring moments for the locomotion score in a sort of extended transition period. At the day of scoring, which was done by me, we took the means of 5 days before of all those sensor data, 5 days before and 5 days after the scoring moment, to use to look what's happening with those behaviors per locomotion score. So what happened? Well, quite a lot. So what you see here, the beginning of the dry period, end of the dry period, 4 weeks postpartum and 8 weeks postpartum. And if you look at the numbers of locomotion score, 1 in blue, 2 in orange, 3 in gray, 4 in yellow and 5 in dark blue, you'll see that there's not a lot of locomotion scoring in the group of score 1. So what we've done for the analysis is to use score 1 and 2 as a healthy group, and 3, 4 and 5 as lame group. And 3, 4, 5 were all separately analyzed regarding to score 1 and 2 combined, because of the number of animals. So I already said the farms we used are well managed farms. They produce a lot of milk, not a lot of sick cows, not a lot of antibiotic use, but still, at the beginning of the dry period, already 30% of all the cows were lame. And there's a gradual incline towards the end of the dry period of 5%, and then things start to happen. At 4 weeks postpartum we go to 47% lameness, and even at 8 weeks postpartum we go to 53% lameness. In well-managed farms, I can't think stated enough. To look at the sensor data, firstly I'll address the eating time. So in green the healthy group, and in red the lame group, score 1 and 2. Eating time per day in minutes, 360 minutes per day on eating time, 11 eating bouts per day, and a duration of little over half an hour per eating bout per day. So I mean, almost all the other values were significantly different. When you look at the eating time per day, there is especially in the very lame cows, a huge decline in eating time of more than 2 hours per day. And again, we took 4 scoring moments, we corrected for repeated measures, and there's more than 2 hours less eating time per day. You can also see less number of eating bouts and also less duration per bout. If you look at lying time, I mean, they need to compensate this less eating time in other kinds of behaviors. So lying time is going to increase towards score 5 of over an hour and a half per day. And I'm talking about score 5 lying time, score 5 eating time I was addressing specifically. But of course the more interesting thing is when you think of a gradual incline of locomotion scoring, of course you've got your acute lamenesses, but if there is a more gradual incline of locomotion scoring, then it would be quite interesting for further studies to see if we can already address the animals walking lame but less lame, probably invisible for farmers at score 3 or maybe score 4, to detect them with our sensors, but that's going to happen in the future. So, ruminating time, bit of less differences than we would thought of before we analyzed the data, and that needs a bit of explanation, because we think, but we haven't checked that yet, but we think that there is a bias, especially in going up in your locomotion score, of teeth grinding. And teeth grinding is more or less a same movement as ruminating, and we're not sure if the rumination time is biased in the sensor data by teeth grinding. As you all could imagine, I hope, especially score 5 animals are in a lot of pain, and maybe, but we don't know yet, maybe they experience a lot of pain, and the teeth grinding is detected as ruminating time. So, but that's for further studies. So what you see is a gradual decline per locomotion score of our rumination time. When we look at the number of steps, and then it's of course a little bit stating the obvious, but it's quantified right now, over 4,100 steps per day in the healthy group, and then per locomotion score, when we increase the locomotion score, the number of steps per day dramatically decreases, up to over 2,000 in locomotion score 5. And again, all the asterisks are statistically significant. So, what happens? We've quantified the effect of lameness on several behavioral parameters in a well-defined period of time, in an sort of extended transition period in dairy cattle. We've got less eating time, up to 2 hours per day. We've got less ruminating time. Lots of a decrease in number of steps and increase in lying time. So that's all, when you want to all combine it together, that's all quite logical, but now it's quantified. And now there's been a study in Switzerland as well, a little bit less animals, but still more or less same results. We've quantified this effect, and now we can, especially from a welfare point of view, address what's happening in those cows when they're lame. This morning, the keynote, zero lameness. I really hope that's possible, but when you see what the effect is on several types of behavioral aspects on these animals, especially from a welfare point of view, I really think we need to not only be more aware of lameness, because especially this room is already aware of the problems and the consequences of lameness, but really, in my opinion, need to act on lameness. Awareness is not enough anymore. So, if you look at the time frame, and if you look at the incline of our of our locomotion score during time, what happens to these animals? Over 50%, so more than half of these animals are lame at 8 weeks postpartum. I'm really curious how it is spread over the world in other countries. But if you try to circle around again towards the beginning of the dry period, and you want to go back to that 30%, so over 20% less, what happened with those cows? In our data set we don't know yet, we're going to look at it, but what happened to those cows? Are they culled? What happened with their peak production? What could have they been producing at their peak production when not more than half was lame? And what about reproduction? Other point of discussion, if you look at the beginning of the dry period, especially in the Netherlands when cows are dried off, they're handled by one farmer. They dry them off, but they also trim them in most of the cases. Still, after trimming, 30% is lame. We don't know what happened with those cows before trimming, so we still don't know if it's, despite the trimming, that still 30% was lame, and the percentage of lame cows was a lot higher, or it was because of the trimming. Furthermore, we want to look at the predictive value of these sensor data especially to address locomotion scoring 2, maybe 3, already to assist farmers in daily herd health management to address locomotion and lameness even more. So, I want to thank you for your attention. I need to say that we are a cooperation of both universities in dairy cattle in the Netherlands, Wageningen University, Utrecht University, thanks to NIDAP and Boehringer Ingelheim, and especially Vet Cow Signals. Thank you for your attention.